Well, it's almost the end of the second week of class, so I've been doing Express English for real now for a little while, and boy, have I screwed up. And I don't yet know all the ways, but I know some of them. Um, what? Where to begin? Well, I'm still learning how to do the improvise as you go thing. That's not what I've done. I mean, I do a lot of improvised stuff, but it's usually what's happening in the class hour. Having that added component of making up the homework kind of as we go and anticipating is new. And even though I'm just now getting to the end of what I'd roughly sketched out, it's thrown me a little. And in fact, I think I should have done a little better, especially in the first week with my class time. I think I was more imagining that I would be suddenly inspired by whatever happened in 1021 or what questions they maybe brought to them, brought to the Express class, so that I would suddenly fill up, and that didn't quite happen. I have pretty good students, and they're engaged and they're doing the stuff, and I think good things can come. But the first week, I was leaning too much on just having them chat together in small groups about the project that they were working toward in Comp 1. I wasn't bold enough about really bringing activities that were planned, and so I just could have done a little better. There's a mixed blessing virtue to Express. Colin and I have talked about this. It's a good thing that when you go to the Express class, you have time to say the things you didn't have time to say in the Comp 1 class a few minutes before. I always think that every benefit has its own drawbacks, and the downside to that benefit is it's easy to give too much time to just you talking and forget the importance of them doing some things. So I think I've fallen into that trap a little bit. But despite that, some good things have happened. I was very encouraged after our last class. This was the day that we'd had drafts due to be submitted for the Comp 1 class. And in the Express class, I did an exercise that I largely stole from my colleague Cheryl Jaffer, where I took a couple of volunteers and we critiqued them as a class, so their draft as a class. So just had a couple of people pick that they wanted to go, and everybody will take a turn doing it, but a couple of bold people were willing to go first. And we called up their drafts and read through them and talked through them, which I think is a great activity because they get feedback, but also everybody gets to learn from what's said about that particular draft. And then also, especially useful at this point, everybody gets to learn something about how to do critiques. And since that's the next major activity we're doing in the Comp 1 class, then they get some practice at that and gain some confidence at that. So I felt good about how that went. I thought we had some useful discussion and set a good tone there, so I feel like that's working well. The other thing I'm discovering that's really working out okay for Express is the smaller class size and the more contextualized situation is making it easier for me to give more individual feedback on things, not in terms of doing more grading, but just in terms of responding to small writing assignments every week, and not even responding to them in terms of saying, oh, you've made bad sentences here or anything, but just reacting to them and helping them think through things. So, for example, this week they are turning in an assignment to the Dropbox in which I just asked them to describe the process they used in creating that first draft for the Comp 1 class in as much detail as they can. And of course some of them struggle a little bit with that, but they say something about the process. And then because there aren't 25 of them, it's realistic for me to say at least a little something to each of those rather than being buried in that, or just saying, well, I need to have them write this down, and then maybe they share it with each other and talk it over. I can get back in the process and some things that that the constraints of time don't always let me do in a normal 90 class. So that's been useful, So then as those come in, I can look at them and say, hey, that sounds like you've got a really good process there. Pay attention to this in the future. Or do you really think that you allowed enough time for that? Or whatever might be useful to do. And if they struggle a lot with writing it down, then I can even show them, well, here's some additional questions you could have answered, some ways you could have expanded what you already put there. So yeah, I'm happy about most of the things. I'm screwing up, but I don't yet fully know where all I might be messing up, so that's reassuring as well. And I took some time this morning to look ahead a little bit and roughly sketch out some of the things for next week, and I'm starting to see ways that I can make some progress, I hope. I'm still getting to know the students. I'm still getting to know what they most need and how to get there, but Express gives you some time to play a little bit and to find those things out. I certainly know them better than I've ever known the whole of a 90 class after just 2 weeks, because there are just fewer of them, and so it's much faster for me to connect with them and see what's going on and start thinking about individual needs as well as the collective needs of the class. So far so good, more or less. Not brimming with confidence because it's so early and haven't got a lot of feedback yet, but they're engaged, they're doing this stuff. I'm starting to figure out a couple of things to do, and I don't think I've made any mistakes that can't be good mistakes that we learn from and go forward. So till next time, we'll see how frazzled I look by then.